Buckingham Palace has finally spoken, and the shockwaves are undeniable. After years of rumours, whispers, and carefully buried secrets, a DNA test has confirmed what many never dared to say out loud. Prince Andrew's long-hidden truth is now out in the open, forcing the palace into an unprecedented public statement that's rocking the monarchy to its very foundation. What's been revealed isn't just scandalous. It's heartbreaking, raising serious questions about loyalty, betrayal, and the true face of the royal family. This isn't gossip anymore, it's official. The palace's historic declaration confirms the DNA results that tie Prince Andrew to a long-rumoured secret child. For years, royal watchers speculated, insiders hinted, and the palace maintained its trademark silence. But now, the truth is undeniable. The Duke of York is, without question, the biological father of an individual whose existence was kept out of sight for decades. What was once dismissed as idle chatter has exploded into one of the most shocking revelations in royal history. Sources close to Buckingham insiders reveal that the monarchy is facing a pressure storm like never before. And it's not just about Andrew. Prince William's modern vision for the royal household is reportedly clashing with old traditions. Hard. His plans allegedly include major financial reforms, cutting down royal expenses, and even removing titles and privileges from those seen as unfit to represent the crown. With those changes looming, Andrew's position could be hanging by a thread. Behind palace gates, tempers are reportedly running high. The Duke of York is said to be furious, blindsided by this sudden public exposure while King Charles and Prince William weigh the next move. Their decision could redefine Andrew's future forever, whether he remains part of royal life or is quietly forced into exile from the monarchy he once proudly represented. But nothing prepared the world for Buckingham Palace's final admission that the DNA confirmation was real and undisputed. For a monarchy built on image, silence, and control, this is a seismic shift. For decades, the palace acted as an unbreakable fortress, hiding every scandal behind polished smiles and velvet curtains. Now, with this revelation exposed, the walls of secrecy are finally cracking, and the royal family's carefully guarded legacy may never recover. But now, after endless speculation, fierce legal battles, and relentless media pressure, that iron wall of secrecy has finally shattered. What was once shrugged off as baseless tabloid talk has turned into a brutal, undeniable truth for Prince Andrew. Already haunted by his ties to the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein and that disastrous 2019 BBC Newsnight interview, this new revelation feels like the final nail in the coffin of his reputation. At 64, the Duke's public image, already in ruins, may never recover from this catastrophic blow. Inside Buckingham Palace, panic reportedly reigns. This isn't just about one scandal. It's a crisis that's testing the monarchy's strength like never before. For the royal family, whose very survival depends on public trust, this DNA bombshell has shaken their foundation to the core. The question now isn't if Andrew can return to royal duties, it's whether the monarchy itself can withstand the shock of this confession. Could this revelation be the moment that changes royal history forever? For one individual, however, the truth cuts even deeper. Their entire life has been marked by a haunting question. Who is my real father? Decades passed in silence, with whispers and fragments of rumour offering no real answers. But now, that lifelong mystery has been solved. DNA testing has confirmed beyond any doubt that this person, once a private citizen living far from the royal spotlight, is indeed Prince Andrew's biological child. Their wish was never power or prestige. It was something far simpler, something deeply human, the truth. For years, this person lived in quiet doubt, haunted by instincts that wouldn't fade, searching for confirmation that their lifelong suspicions were real. And now that truth has finally arrived. Reports suggest that their identity is being tightly guarded, with royal insiders ensuring absolute secrecy. They don't seek titles, money, or public attention. Only peace, privacy, and the respect to process the truth that has completely rewritten their life. Behind the palace walls, the tension is unbearable. The DNA test, said to be handled with utmost confidentiality, reportedly left zero room for debate. Experts involved in the process confirmed that the results were scientifically and mathematically conclusive, a 100% match. This is no longer rumor, no longer whispered gossip traded among courtiers and columnists. It's pure, irrefutable science, and the impact of that revelation now lands directly at the feet of King Charles III, who faces an impossible dilemma with the world watching. This is far bigger than a private family scandal. It's a direct challenge to the image and stability of the Windsor dynasty itself. Historians and constitutional experts are already scrambling to assess what this could mean. Could it raise legal questions of inheritance? Would it reshape how royal lineage is defined in the modern age? What does it mean for the monarchy's moral authority as an institution? What started as faint whispers on forgotten online forums and sketchy tabloid pages has now exploded into undeniable truth. DNA has turned rumor into reality, and the shock is reverberating through every corner of the world. People everywhere are now asking one haunting question that could reshape royal history forever. Will this hidden heir stay in the shadows, or could their existence rewrite the very future of the British monarchy? In the years after Prince Andrew's dramatic retreat from public life, the whispers only grew louder. His downfall had been swift and messy, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and suspicion. His ties to Jeffrey Epstein and that painfully awkward BBC Newsnight interview had already crushed what was left of his reputation. So, when new murmurs began to circulate that something even darker was being hidden, people were more than ready to believe it. Over the past 2 years, those quiet rumors snowballed into a full-blown investigation fueled by online sleuths. Amateur investigators began piecing together clues, blurry photos from the 1980s, faint recollections from his naval years, even cryptic remarks allegedly made by former palace staff. Each fragment built a timeline that pointed to something huge, a secret affair, a quiet deal, and a child, kept carefully out of sight from royal life. What started as scattered online gossip slowly formed a timeline so convincing that even skeptics began to pay attention. At first, major newspapers stayed cautious, careful not to print anything they couldn't prove. But as social media chatter exploded, the mainstream press couldn't keep ignoring it. Soon, subtle headlines began to appear. The Duke's secret history and "Is a royal secret about to be revealed?" Careful words, but enough to ignite a public frenzy. Those vague headlines turned quiet whispers into full-blown debate across the country. Buckingham Palace responded with its trademark defense: no comment. Normally, that silence acts as a shield of royal dignity. But this time it felt heavy, loaded, almost guilty. For many observers, the refusal to deny the claims didn't sound like restraint. It sounded like confirmation. The absence of a firm rebuttal made people wonder if the palace was hiding something far bigger than anyone imagined. Dr. Anna Whitelock, one of Britain's most respected royal historians, warned that these kinds of claims strike at the monarchy's very foundation. The royal family's entire authority depends on unbroken lineage and legitimacy, she explained. If questions about bloodline arise, they don't just create gossip, they threaten the institution itself. Her words hit hard, especially as whispers began turning into formal reports, and those reports triggered official inquiries. This revelation could shake the very foundation of public trust and reignite fierce debates about the monarchy's future. And now, the entire world waits, holding its breath with one burning question. Will this become just another dark chapter in Prince Andrew's already damaged legacy, or could it be the moment that finally puts the crown itself to the ultimate test? For generations, Buckingham Palace has lived by its golden rule: never complain, never explain. That old code once protected the royals like armor, shielding them from scandal and scrutiny. But in today's age of viral headlines and non-stop social media, that silence has become a dangerous weakness. In a world where everyone demands answers instantly, silence no longer looks dignified. It looks suspicious. And when the palace refused to speak, the public filled the silence with speculation. Every unspoken word was twisted. Every quiet pause became a headline. What started as an innocent whisper soon swelled into a deafening storm, until around 8 months ago, everything changed. That's when the rumour took on a new life. It crossed from gossip into something legally serious. It all came crashing into the open through the one place the palace couldn't control, the courts. An individual had stepped forward, filing a formal legal petition claiming to be Prince Andrew's biological child and demanding that the Duke of York submit to a DNA test. From that moment, Buckingham Palace's silence became deafening and dangerously telling. But here's where it shocked everyone. The claimant wasn't a fame-hungry opportunist chasing headlines or royal fortune. His name was Alexander Campbell, a 42-year-old architect from Edinburgh. Raised by a single mother, Campbell had built a solid, respected career far away from the glitter of royal circles. Friends and colleagues described him as intelligent, private, and deeply grounded, not the kind of man to stir chaos for attention. According to both official court filings and those close to him, Alexander's motivation was never money or privilege. It was deeply personal. He just wanted the truth. For decades, he lived with a quiet uncertainty about who his father really was. His mother had always avoided the question, brushing it off with vague answers. But 2 years ago, on her deathbed, she finally broke her silence. Never before in modern royal history had the institution faced such a direct and devastating challenge, the very bloodline of the Windsors being questioned in the open. For centuries, the monarchy's strength rested on one unbroken truth: lineage. And now, that sacred certainty was under attack like never before. Prince Andrew, already disgraced and stripped of his military honours, royal duties and public patronages, had long been branded a liability inside palace walls. Under King Charles III's watch, the monarchy had been fighting hard to rebuild its image, presenting itself as modern, accountable and slimmed down to win back public trust. But now, all that delicate work hung by a thread. This wasn't some minor scandal about money or protocol. This was about blood, legacy, and betrayal. The mere possibility of an undisclosed child didn't just threaten Andrew's personal reputation, it risked poisoning the Windsor name forever. The monarchy's legitimacy itself was suddenly in question, and behind the palace gates, panic began to spread. According to palace insiders, emergency meetings were held in rapid succession. The atmosphere inside those gilded rooms was tense, almost electric. Around the table sat King Charles, Prince William, senior legal advisors, and high-ranking courtiers from the Lord Chamberlain's office, all staring down the same impossible dilemma. Never before in modern royal history had the institution faced such a direct and devastating challenge, the very bloodline of the Windsors being questioned in the open. For centuries, the monarchy's strength rested on one unbroken truth: lineage. And now, that sacred certainty was under attack like never before. Prince Andrew, already disgraced and stripped of his military honours, royal duties and public patronages, had long been branded a liability inside palace walls. Under King Charles III's watch, the monarchy had been fighting hard to rebuild its image, presenting itself as modern, accountable and slimmed down to win back public trust. But now, all that delicate work hung by a thread. This wasn't some minor scandal about money or protocol. This was about blood, legacy and betrayal. The mere possibility of an undisclosed child didn't just threaten Andrew's personal reputation, it risked poisoning the Windsor name forever. The monarchy's legitimacy itself was suddenly in question, and behind the palace gates, panic began to spread. According to palace insiders, emergency meetings were held in rapid succession. The atmosphere inside those gilded rooms was tense, almost electric. Around the table sat King Charles, Prince William, senior legal advisors, and high-ranking courtiers from the Lord Chamberlain's office, all staring down the same impossible dilemma. Its independence, sterling global reputation, and location far from the unrelenting gaze of UK media made the Sterling Genetics Institute the perfect choice. Every step of the DNA collection was rehearsed, staged, and controlled with military precision, nothing left to chance. At one of the royal residences under tight palace security, Prince Andrew provided his sample. The room was a fortress of oversight. An independent medical officer, one of Alexander Campbell's attorneys, and Andrew's own legal counsel were all present, 3 witnesses to ensure there could be no claim of tampering or coercion. Every moment was documented, every vial sealed, and immediately locked away. Meanwhile, in Edinburgh, Alexander Campbell underwent the exact same procedure. His sample was collected under identical scrutiny, witnessed, sealed, and safeguarded with equal care. Both sets of DNA were then entrusted to a secure diplomatic courier, whose journey to Geneva was tracked every step of the way. This meticulous chain of custody left zero chance for substitution or contamination. Once the samples reached Stirling, the laboratory applied the gold standard of paternity testing: short tandem repeat STR analysis. This sophisticated method examines specific regions of DNA composed of repeating patterns. Each person inherits half their STR markers from their mother and half from their father. By comparing these markers, scientists can confirm or rule out biological relationships with extraordinary accuracy. A geneticist, speaking generally about STR testing, explained, "In a typical paternity test, about 21 STR markers are examined. If the child is biologically related, every paternal marker must align. When all markers match, the probability of paternity exceeds 99.99%. That figure, 99.99%, is the scientific equivalent of certainty. But for Buckingham Palace, it wasn't just a number, it was a looming truth, a revelation poised to either calm the storm or unleash a scandal that would echo through the monarchy for generations. The moment of truth had finally arrived. For all legal and practical purposes, these results were absolute, undeniable proof that could not be questioned. Inside the Swiss laboratory, the technicians fully understood the weight of what they were handling. Every member of the team was bound by strict, legally enforceable non-disclosure agreements. This was no ordinary scientific procedure. They weren't just processing anonymous samples in sterile white rooms. They were holding evidence with the power to rewrite the history of the British monarchy. The atmosphere in the lab was tense, almost reverent. Computers hummed quietly as they decoded strands of DNA, reducing centuries of royal mystique into raw sequences of data. Every calculation was carefully checked, and a second team cross-verified the results to ensure absolute accuracy. Once confirmed, the truth could no longer be challenged. The report was treated with the highest level of security. No emails, no uploads, no digital record existed. A single hard copy was printed, signed by the laboratory's director, and sealed inside a tamper-proof envelope. Though plain in appearance, that envelope carried more weight than any royal proclamation ever issued. Inside lay a verdict with the power to shake a family and challenge the very foundation of a nation's monarchy. Under tight diplomatic protection, the document was flown back to London. Upon arrival, it was delivered only to a small, tightly controlled circle, senior royal legal advisors, and a representative of the court. Every step was designed to ensure that the truth, once revealed, would leave no room for doubt, only the stark reality that history itself had just been rewritten. What that envelope contained was far more than just medical data. It held the fate of Prince Andrew's legacy and a chapter that would define the House of Windsor for generations. At St. James's Palace, the envelope was opened in a sealed, tension-filled room. Present were the King's private secretary, Andrew's chief legal counsel, and an impartial court officer. Silence draped the chamber like a heavy fog as the envelope was broken and the single sheet unfolded. One participant later described the air as eerily still, as though the room itself sensed the weight of history about to be revealed. The report delivered its message with chilling precision. The STR analysis confirmed a match between Prince Andrew and Alexander Campbell, establishing paternity with 99.99% certainty. There was no ambiguity, no loophole, no way to escape the truth. The whispers that had haunted corridors and tabloids for decades were now set in stone, verified by science and law. But as the truth emerged, a new question took centre stage. Would Buckingham Palace try to bury it, or would they allow history to be rewritten in full view of the public eye? The rumour had transformed into undeniable reality. Alexander Campbell's legal team received the official document, stamped with authority, impossible to dismiss or ignore. Buckingham Palace was left with less than 24 hours to respond before the revelation would inevitably reach the world. Silence was no longer a choice. Through the night, the palace's crisis communications team worked frantically. Draft after draft was written and discarded, voices clashing in tense debate, every single word weighed as though it were a ticking time bomb. Internet traffic exploded within minutes. The phrase biological link went viral, trending globally as news channels cut into live programming. Anchors delivered the revelation with visible shock. Prince Andrew's secret son confirmed. Outside Buckingham Palace, crowds swelled. Curious citizens, outraged critics, and stunned tourists gathered, eager to witness history unfold. Voices rose in anger, not just at the revelation itself, but at what many saw as years of deliberate concealment. One woman told the BBC, her voice shaking with conviction, "We all knew something was being hidden. The cover-up is the worst part of it all." The following morning, a spokesperson for the Duke of York finally addressed the matter. His statement landed like ice. "I accept the findings of the DNA testing recently conducted. This is a private issue that concerns the family, and I will be dealing with it privately with the assistance of all involved. No further comments will be made." Far from calming the storm, the words fueled public outrage. The phrase private issue was mocked, read as cold, detached, and utterly devoid of humanity. Critics condemned Andrew for failing to recognise Alexander Campbell not as evidence, but as his child. Public relations specialist Mark Borkowski explained the misstep bluntly. This was a catastrophic misjudgment. People weren't asking for legal phrasing. They wanted a father, a human response. By retreating behind palace walls and sterile language, Prince Andrew cemented critics' perceptions. Pompous, indifferent, and out of touch, a fragile legacy already fractured now seemed shattered beyond repair. The pressing question remains, what happens next? Will the monarchy close ranks to shield one of its most controversial members, or will this revelation ignite a reckoning even centuries of tradition cannot withstand? The fallout arrived with breathtaking speed. For Prince Andrew, whose reputation had long been tarnished, this confirmation delivered the final, devastating blow. Across Britain, petitions surged, demanding he be stripped of his last remaining honour, the title of Duke of York. Politicians, commentators, and senior civic leaders openly called for his removal from the line of succession, a demand unthinkable just a decade ago. Inside palace walls, tension ran high. King Charles was reportedly both heartbroken and furious. After years of painstakingly modernising the monarchy, his brother's scandal had shattered the fragile progress. Prince William, meanwhile, was said to be incandescent with rage, fully aware that the damage from this revelation would fall squarely on him as the future king. After decades of uncertainty, Alexander Campbell finally had the truth. His goal had never been titles, wealth, or power. It was simply closure. Now that the truth was public, Campbell and his family requested only one thing: privacy, as they tried to process this life-altering revelation. Yet history has shown that once royal blood is involved, privacy is a rare luxury. Legal experts immediately began analysing the implications. Under the Royal Marriages Act and the laws of primogeniture, illegitimate children are denied any royal titles or succession rights. By law, Campbell would never be a prince. Still, some lawyers noted he could have a solid case for a portion of Prince Andrew's personal estate. One expert observed, however, that while the legal questions were intriguing, they were ultimately secondary. What truly mattered were the moral and institutional questions. What happens when modern science confronts centuries-old traditions with undeniable facts? The scandal was quickly compared to Edward VIII's abdication and the explosive divorce of Charles and Diana. Yet many argued this situation was different. It was not about love or duty, but deception, secrecy, and science. This time, there was no grey area. DNA had spoken, leaving the palace with no room to maneuver. Shadows behind the crown. To understand why this statement shook the monarchy to its core, we need to peel back the layers of a story long hidden, a story that began with whispers Prince Andrew never wanted the world to hear. For decades, rumours drifted through palace corridors and late-night tabloids, whispers of a secret past. These weren't baseless tales. They were smoke rising from a fire carefully concealed by those sworn to protect the crown. Insiders recall how Andrew's reckless behaviour often fueled gossip, while the public only saw a smiling prince. Those closest to him whispered behind closed doors. Late-night encounters, unexplained absences, and an arrogance that pushed every limit. Instead of exposure, the palace shielded him. Courtiers acted swiftly. Calls were made, stories pulled, reporters reminded of their duty. Headlines that could have broken the internet vanished into silence. Even Andrew's friends hinted at another life. Relationships hidden from cameras, meetings never reported, secrets that could have changed everything. Each time, the palace acted with ruthless precision, burying truths before they surfaced. This wasn't just about Andrew's reputation, it was about the monarchy itself. Protecting the crown justified deception. But that very culture planted seeds of public doubt. People noticed the gaps, the sudden disappearances of stories. Suspicion grew like ivy along the monarchy's walls. What else were they hiding? Every silence only made Andrew's secrets heavier. Then whispers became investigations. Beneath the glittering facade of royal life lay a forbidden affair Andrew thought would stay buried. But secrets thrive in silence, and this one was destined to explode. And there you have it, the royal secret no one saw coming. But what do you think? Will this revelation forever scar the monarchy or spark a new chapter in royal history? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more shocking updates.